Chapter 7 of our textbook deals with introductions and conclusions. They perform a very important function, both at the beginning of the speech and at the end of the presentation. So if you think of introductions and conclusions, think of them in this fashion. How to engage your audience at the beginning of your speech so they will be motivated to listen to the rest of it. And then for the conclusion, how to remind your audience at the end of your speech what you said and why it was relevant to them and their lives. So your audience will likely recall more of the beginning and the ending of your speech than the content in the middle. Unfortunately, that's the case with most speeches. So let's jump into introductions first. An introduction helps your audience make a smooth transition to the main points of your presentation. It helps to create a very positive impression, and then it also sets an appropriate tone and mood for the entire presentation. If the introduction is done poorly, the audience may judge you or prejudge you as being less competent, your topic is unimportant, they may perceive you as being dull and stop listening to you. Here are the functions of the introductions, and we'll get into detail in each of these. The first one is it captures the attention and focus of the audience. Second, it provides a motive or reason for the audience to listen. It allows you to state your thesis or your central idea. It gives you an opportunity to speak to the research that you've done, the time you've taken, the experience that you have in this particular topic. And then it gives you the opportunity, lastly, to preview the message and organization of your presentation. Let's start with the first one, capturing attention and focus. So that first statement that you make as you engage the audience is designed to capture their attention, to bring them in. It is significant. You don't get a second chance to make a good impression. So, the mood of the speech refers to the overall feeling that you hope to engender from your audience. So depending on the context, depending on the situation, depending on what the audience expects from you, you need to engender that mood in the introduction itself. The tone is your emotional disposition as you deliver your presentation. The tone is created verbally by your words and the ideas you select, and non-verbally by the emotions that you communicate. So the mood is the mood is created by your tone. Keep that in mind. So you need to consider the desired mood and adjust your tone appropriately for your introduction, and also to meet the expectations of the audience for this particular situation. So provide a motive to listen is the second function of the introduction. An effective speaker quickly establishes a reason to listen, relevance to the audience's position and lives. So in doing so, you establish common ground. What do you and the audience have in common? And you want to appeal to that. It brings the audience in, it establishes a closer connection. By focusing in on something you and your audience share and announcing that early, either directly, explicitly, or implicitly, you help the audience identify with both you and your topic. You see, when your audience perceives that the message is actually meant for them, it has been tailor-made, it has been customized for them, and it's relevant to their lives, they certainly will listen attentively. Third, it's for you to enhance your credibility. Your credibility as a speaker is initially judged in large part on the basis of what you say in your introduction, how you say it, and how you carry yourself to the podium, and how you communicate verbally and non-verbally in the introduction. The credibility refers to the extent to which a speaker is perceived as a competent spokesperson. You can think of your credibility in terms of competence, and that is perceived competence, what the audience perceives about your competence, your concern for your audience, the sense of charisma and dynamism that you bring as you deliver your presentation, and of course your integrity or your personal ethics. So you need to enhance your credibility. Your credibility is enhanced if the audience perceives that you know your subject, that you care about them, that you offer an enthusiastic delivery, and you communicate a sense of ethical integrity, that your speech is for the common good. And if that's the case, then your audience's impression concerning you and your presentation will be positive. So credibility increases as you identify early on what qualifies you uniquely in terms of experience and research, what qualifies you about this topic in terms of experience and research. The last function of the introduction is for you to preview your message and organization. So you need to tell the audience exactly where you're going. Have you ever played blind man, where somebody asks you to close their eyes and then they grab your hand and they want to lead you along? And you really don't want to do that because you don't know where they're going to lead you. So the audience wants to know exactly where you are taking them. What ground do you hope to cover in this presentation? What are the main points that you hope to develop? And if you do that, they will be less likely to be confused or distracted. So an effective introduction might offer a preview statement similar to this. Today, it's important that we better understand the nature of world hunger, explore creative solutions to this problem, and finally, see how some of these solutions might also be profitable to your business. And so what the audience finds out in this preview is that there are three main points to the message. So how do you go about creating an effective introduction? You can use startling facts, intriguing statements. These often challenge the listener and draw the listener in. You engage them as a participant. Maybe a dramatic story, an initial short story, don't make it too long at the beginning, involves a listener in a tale, in a story from the beginning to the end. A quotation or a literature reference will certainly work very well. Don't make it too long, especially your literature reference. Make sure it's appropriate for the audience. Using an old Middle English literature reference might not work. Humor helps to break down that psychological barrier between you and the audience. And so if you use humor, especially self-deprecating humor, when you make a joke at your own expense, then it works well. And make sure that the humor is tied directly to the topic under discussion. It's appropriate for the topic and the occasion itself. A rhetorical question works very well. You engage the audience. They don't answer verbally, but you get them to think. Illustrations, examples, and anecdotes all work well. Look at the textbook. It has quite a few examples for you. You can also physically involve the audience by asking them to move to a certain part, maybe group up in twos or threes. You can relate a personal experience that helps the audience to connect with you as the speaker. You can use a visual or a media aid that helps again, and then maybe refer to the situation in which you are speaking. And that probably is not the best one or the most powerful one, but it may be wise to refer to the situation, especially if you want to tie it into something humorous. Here are 5 guidelines for introduction. Some people start the introduction, working on the introduction at the beginning, and I would suggest you don't. In fact, maybe work on the body. Figure out what your general aim, your general purpose is, your specific purpose is, what your thesis statement is. Once you've done that, then work on the body. And then come back to the introduction. So prepare the introduction after the body of the speech. You know what you are introducing at that point, okay? Make it creative and easy to follow. A poorly done introduction, a poorly executed introduction causes the audience to drift almost immediately. So make it creative, engage them. You also want to memorize that introduction. You don't want to look down at your notes. You want to powerfully state it, maintaining strong eye contact with the audience. Communicate high energy by being well practiced. Okay, so don't be too dependent on your notes for the introduction. Engage the audience non-verbally before you even speak. As soon as you stand up, the audience's attention is on you. That is first impression. You never get a second chance to form a first impression. So your poise counts. Create a confident, energetic approach as you come to the podium. Consider the time constraints and mood, and so don't make your introduction too long compared to the rest of your speech. Some common pitfalls of introductions is when an individual begins with an apology. Don't apologize for mistakes that you're going to make or likely to make. Don't apologize for terrible visual aids. Don't apologize for being ill-prepared. They set up a negative tone that is hard to overcome. Don't be too brief with the introduction, or don't be too long with the introduction. Don't give too much away. You do want to preview the main points. Sometimes you may not want to preview all the main points, but maybe the first main point. It all depends on the context and how much you want to give away, all right? So you don't want to give the substance of your speech away at the very beginning of your presentation. And then, of course, rehearse it so that you can communicate it in a powerful way. Do not read your introduction. Don't rely on shock tactics. You might get their attention, but it might boomerang. So shouting, fire, fire, might not work at all. Don't promise too much. All right? Don't promise too much in your presentation and then you can't deliver. And don't use unnecessary prefatory remarks. Don't say, well, I'm nervous, or I can't believe I have to give this speech, or deep breath, here we go. Those are unnecessary. Don't use long-winded poems or quotations or prose. Don't assume a different persona, because remember, you're trying to establish your credibility as a speaker in the introduction. Now, sometimes you can pull off something that's melodramatic. Okay, you have to know what works for this particular audience. And then don't use the same introduction all the time. You know, very often we tend to use quotations, and for all of our speeches, we use quotations, or we use rhetorical questions for all of our speeches. Vary it. All right, in the next segment, we will look at conclusions.